Awesome. So, I guess like the first thing we can kind of start talking about is like, you remember when we started working together, what was like the reasoning for you to reach out to me? Like, what was like the main goal that you had?
Main goal was to get in the top 5% for the CrossFit Open,
Mm-hmm.
and that was what I was targeting for and having problems getting past the top 6% and
Mm-hmm.
into that 5th percentile for 3 or 4 years.
Really? Mm-hmm.
So, I needed to reach out to you to see if nutrition was the part that was lacking that could help me get over the hump.
Do you think it was?
I think that was definitely a big part of it, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something we kind of learned through the process. So what are some of the things that you, when we started in the process, that you realized that you were missing? You know, if you can think about specific pointers or things that you're like, oh, like, I changed this and I immediately kind of started seeing something happen.
The recommendations that you made for the daily intakes,
Yeah.
especially for me, it was fat. So
Hmm.
I always stayed away from fat.
Yeah.
I'd get a little bit of fat, but I definitely realized after talking with you that uh, eating more healthy fat was definitely something that I needed to do more of and be conscious of while I was making food choices. Because as you explained, fat will um, help my performance
Yeah.
during workouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, especially because you needed to have, as a CrossFit athlete that trains like 2 to 3 hours a day or more, you need to have, it's like the whole thing is like you have to have a good amount of calories. And a lot of times it's kind of hard for you to get that just from, or just the carbs or protein and so forth. So that is like kind of like the big thing for that. What is like your, like, I guess like talking specifically about results, can you kind of talk about like what you accomplished as far as, this past, like, CrossFit Open, any kind of super big highlights that you feel like were good in the whole process, and how long have you been working together? About like
7 months.
7 months. Okay. And then some big highlights that you feel like are important to kind of mention, for people that are kind of watching this, that are just interested and obviously kind of taking their nutrition to the next level.
So the biggest highlight is we accomplished the goal of hitting the top 5% and getting actually past that. I was able to accomplish getting into the 97th percentile.
Wow.
Last I checked. So I'm in the top 3% of CrossFit athletes for the Open. Um,
RX, right?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that was the biggest accomplishment because with your help, I was able to do that and concentrate on the nutrition part and resting and paying attention to my rest and seeing how I was feeling throughout the week and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Definitely assisted with me getting to where I am over the last 7 months. And yeah, I was super excited to get into the top 3% when I was only trying to get to the top 5% and then make that 3% jump during
Yeah.
the next Open. So now I can shoot higher and go for the 99th percent, the
I
top
know.
one.
And you're gonna go,
Um,
you're gonna prepare for that Open in October, so that's important, man. I guess like
yes.
another important question is like, what are some like the biggest struggles that you kind of were dealing with and you dealt with throughout the process that you felt like were overcome with nutrition, or at least like proper planning and so forth? Because I know, for example, you're a person that you're busy with like your schedule, like, as far as like traveling all the time for training and going out to Maryland and coming down. So can you just kind of briefly talk about some of those struggles, and how did I help, or nutrition kind of coaching help you overcome some of those?
So yeah, definitely the traveling was probably my most difficult time, and during the travel, not just so traveling was a big thing. Whether it was me driving the 14 hours to Maryland or flying and then having to go to my drill for the army.
Mhm.
Whether it was over the weekend, which is 2 days, or if it was a 5 day training event. The biggest that was the biggest thing was prior to talking to you, I probably would just eat whatever I was feeling on the road. Wasn't really trying to, as you say, control the controllables. I was
Yeah.
just going on the fly and eating whatever. And then after talking to you and getting your advice on, hey, maybe you should take a cooler and take some snacks with you. And you gave me all the options for snacks, the healthier options with the protein
Hmm.
cookies, and then the like things like nuts and seeds, and then dried fruit, and those sort of things. I was able to eat a lot healthier with the cooler next to me, whether I was driving or whether I was flying. I was able to pack the dried fruits or just some fruit in my carry-on bag, and then
Yeah.
the idea of bringing a water bottle with me on the plane, an empty water bottle prior to getting through security, and then filling the water bottle up in the airport was actually a big help as well.
Yeah.
Instead of spending like $7 on a bottle of water, so
Stupid
that
airport, like,
yeah,
yeah,
those pieces of advices helped a lot. And then same thing with watching out for my immune system during traveling, which I never really considered. With all the traveling that I do, I never really take into consideration how your immune system can get hit at the airport or just traveling on the
yeah,
road. Stopping at gas stations or restaurants or whatnot.
good,
So it was good that you gave me the idea of the emergency packets, taking them before I would travel, and then taking them coming back.
cool.
Uh, so I think that was a tremendous help with the traveling and being able to, once I finished the traveling and got into the training for the army over the drill weekend, I would restock the cooler and I would be able to have more healthy lunches and actually be able to eat properly uh, instead of having
Yeah,
a MRE packet for 3 or 4 days for lunch and
yeah,
breakfast, and then they only giving us one hot meal at dinner for the most part. So
that's awesome,
that
man.
those tips were definitely taken into consideration and utilized a
Good.
lot.
Awesome. So if people are watching this and they're kind of wondering, like obviously they're kind of on the verge of like or they for especially like CrossFit athletes that are really struggling with performance or struggling with really trying to get to that top percentile in the open or competitions, what if they're considering kind of joining this, but they're on the verge, what would you kind of tell them about, I guess, like your experience, or like what would you tell them about obviously joining a nutrition coaching program specifically with me?
I would say go for it. Make sure they have a goal in mind, but definitely they need to reach out and contact you to get the see if there's something that they're lacking or overlooking in their nutrition side to help their performance increase over a certain time frame. They
Good.
need to have a goal in mind though, and let you know what the goal is, and have good communication with you um, over the time frame that they're going to be utilizing your assistance, because the check-ins are a large help as well, to be able to get the feedback from you weekly and make adjustments that way was a big help as well. And to have you not just uh, coaching, just given, like, you could have just given regular feedback, but you actually care about the people that you're training, and you reaching out to me every week with different tips and positive feedback, and kind of reinforcing my goal and saying, hey, you can do this, and you helping me with the mental side as well, like, yeah, I can do this.
Good.
So
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for that feedback. And then one last thing, and just one last question would be: would you recommend this kind of like Viva Nutrition coaching to your friends, family, or somebody close to you, or just anybody at this point? Yes or no?
yes, I actually did recommend you to I have an older sister who's in her 40s. She's in her
Okay.
early 40s, and she was asking she's asking about my nutrition because I was talking about you, and I gave her your information and told her if she had the time to reach out to you. I don't think she has yet. I think
Well,
she's
just you can introduce me in a two-way text, and then so a
yeah.
lot of times like people are afraid to take action, so we can
Okay.
definitely kind of have that conversation. Well, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm sure we'll be kind of chatting in the future as we kind of prep you in the future for like the Open in October.
Yes.
And I'll be more than happy to continue to help you support your goals, man.
All
So
right.
thank you so much for taking the time today, brother.
All right. I appreciate it.
All right, man. I'll have a good one and take care.
All right. You too.